Welcome back to a Healing Peace podcast. If you were with us last time, we were having a great conversation with Pastor Gary and Gina from Fire and Life Talk International Ministries. He was sharing his life about his ups and downs, his emotional mental health, church hurt. I mean, we was getting into the weeds with some things. And of course, we ran out of time because I like to talk. And then anytime somebody come on the show, they start talking with me and we get carried away. So if you can, Gary and Gina, if you can reintroduce yourselves to our lovely audience who are meeting you or for the first or second time, hopefully the second.
Okay. Well, I'm Gina Jackson and pastor of Fire and Life International Ministries, part of Fire and Life Talk, co-host, and I was in the education field, working with behavior children and also disabled children, and loved it. Really enjoyed working with children with some difficulties, but they're special in my heart, and I just love them. But anyway, that's enough about me.
No problem. You did a great job.
I'm a husband, and we didn't say it last time, but we're going on 33 years of marriage.
Yes.
Like one lady said, "Oh, that's 3 decades."
Yes, 3 decades.
A father of 4. I'm a disabled Air Force veteran, former amateur boxer, entrepreneur, overseer of foreign ministries of Well of Hope Fellowship International, the director of Fire and Life International Ministries, and also a co-host with my lovely wife on Fire and Life Talk podcast.
All right. And so in our last interview, I drilled Gary. I drilled him so and now that we back, is Gina's turn on the hot seat. We're gonna just get in her mind a little bit and share about her experiences. So thank you for being patient, letting your man talk for so long.
She did. Yes,
it went by so fast, though.
It did. And so, Miss Gina, one of the things that Gary talked about was the length of his journey, the ups and downs, the roller coasters. And with you guys, like he said, 33 years of marriage.
Yeah.
How were you
Praise the Lord.
It is. How were you along this journey with him? And did you notice things? Because I would assume there'd be some times where things was going great, and then there were some times that things just kind of fell apart. So if you can give us a little bit of insight of how you work through Gary's ups and downs and how that reflected on your being.
Well, what I like to say, yes, there were ups and downs. And that in itself can be something that you need assistance with, something that you need to learn how to maneuver, through all of that. And I can say that my close relationship with the Lord has really helped me. I have had other people come into my life for seasons, people that would, help me as far as praying, or they would come and just give me an encouraging word, that makes such a difference. And, but, I really learned what a marriage is supposed to be, because I always had this vision that it was supposed to be a white picket fence where nothing ever happened. And, this is going to be the greatest thing, and you're supposed to just, everything is going to be great, but that's not what marriage is. And I learned that early on, because you say for better, for worse, that's what it is. And I learned that love is not something that you just say, okay, well, this person is not up to what I would like them to be. They're being who they are. And you cannot just throw them to the side because of that. There were times that I would be, just overly frustrated, with the situations, because it is a journey. It is something that you need God's grace for, something that you need to change mindsets, because a lot of times if you have that white picket fence in your mindset, you'll just let it go. You'll just say, I don't want this, I don't have to put up with this. I'll just leave and it'll be okay. But that is not what God has called us to be. That's not what he called marriage to be. He called marriage to be a unit of one. And so when you're walking through that journey, when you see that a person is down, you pick them up. You try to pick them up. You try to encourage them. I can say this, in this journey of ups and downs, we had times of laughter. We have times of where we may have taken a trip, or it wasn't always so bad, because I think the main thing is our mindsets were changed. And I know you had talked about that, how your mind has to be changed to see a different way. Like, this is not the end. I can have hope in that things are going to change, and they can change. Yeah. It's a matter of changing your mindset. Yeah. And so that was how the journey was. I'm not going to say I was always at that mindset, but I can say that I felt like I had a lonely walk a lot of times. I mean, this is not a popular thing. A lot of people don't put up with anything. They just go on. But that's not, I don't think quitting was in my DNA. Right. So I felt like I could have quit, but all the time I would have that mindset. No, things can change. You got to keep on. You have to keep encouraging. You have to keep walking this out. This is the father of your children. A lot of times we think, okay, the children are going to be okay, but that part of the unit is so important. My husband didn't have his father in his life, but I can tell you so many times my husband was a father to the kids, and that meant so much to me. Sure. Just being there for them, to talk to them, to pick them up from school, and just being a part of their lives, and that makes a big difference.
Sure. And there's so much you just shared, so I'm gonna try to pull some of the things apart. So there's certain things I'm gonna go back and kind of pull from. And one of the things that I was curious about, because you made this statement, at times you felt alone. So what would you do to get yourself back to a place where you could actually be supportive to him? Because that's a lot to carry. And then having the children as well. So was there a period in your life where you were like, okay, these are the things that I know that I need so that I can continue in this journey? And if so, can you walk us through some of that process?
Well, I know that sometimes I would go to other people, but I learned that they didn't understand, I guess, the journey that I was going to take. And so a lot of times people would just say, what are you doing? you should give up. But I just didn't. I just knew in my heart, and I honestly believe that God placed that in my heart to not give up, to continue to go, to continue to have faith. And when those things happen where I couldn't trust anybody or talk to them about this, because they felt like I was crazy or, didn't know what I was doing, but I would go to God. I would actually read the word and I would hear from God. And I got to a point where I just would not go to anybody. And I would just spend my time with God. And I know that some people would say, okay, well, how do you do that? I just immerse myself in his word, and I was able to maneuver the way I needed to maneuver. My mindset started to change because I'm a product of divorce. My parents were divorced, so all I knew was divorce. But my mindset changed because I knew that I had hope in a marriage that could be successful because God says that it could be. And I learned that by reading the word of God, knowing it's not so much about what his word says, it's about his promise to me. He promised to me that my life would be good. He promised to me that I shall have a life of eternity, that I'll have a life that will flourish, that I will have a life of healing. And so, there was sometimes I would be angry or I would be upset, but God would always redeem me through his word.
And so I'm curious, with how were you able to distinguish him speaking to you in the midst of all of that chaos?
Well, the way that I could distinguish it is that I had peace.
Okay.
I had a different mindset. Just having that change of mindset. I mean, just knowing that I had peace. When there's that peace, it's a peace that passes all understanding, that that you don't get that from the world, and you don't get that from circumstances and situations. So that's how I knew that it was him with me always.
Yeah. Yeah. And I asked that question because what you shared is not uncommon from the perspective of a woman in a household who has all of these external circumstances that's creating this burden, this pressure. And I've heard numerously, just even from the work that I do, just the challenges to connect and get the support that you need. And so I'm a big proponent of, you know, keep seeking, keep going, and allowing God to work when you least expect it. But what you shared is too very common, which is, okay, God, I've done these things, but I'm not getting the support that I need so that my spirit is being edified. And so I'm grateful for you, I think, talking about this, sharing this piece, because at the end of the day, it's what God can pour into you. It's what God can fulfill in you. And so one of the things that I'm curious about as well, again, because we talked about a little bit the roller coaster a little bit, was there a point where you could identify certain patterns or behaviors with Gary when he was fluctuating, that you began to put things into practice so you knew how to handle, okay, what's going to come next? Did you ever get to that point? And if so, can you describe some of those things that was actually very helpful for your spirit and your family?
Well, I knew that there were some times that I just could not depend on him to be there for me.
Mm,
You know, I knew that. Uh, but um, it would be something like, I don't know how to explain it, because I would know that, but there would be like grace where I
mhm,
could just handle it.
mhm,
I would just handle what I needed to do.
mhm,
And there was times when, after I gone over those many times, if I had to do it myself, he would come along and he would help me, because it, like we say, it was a journey. It
mhm,
wasn't always the fact that he wasn't always not there. It was just sometimes. It wasn't all the time. And when he was in that place where he could be there for me, um, he was there, and I could appreciate that. And I can always know that he had my back and he was there. And I think that's why we're so connected and close, because he would come in there at the right time when I needed him. It was about the time that I was just about,
yeah,
that was it.
yeah,
But he would come in and lift me up and encourage me
yeah,
and say the right things, give me a scripture, uh, or smile, or just, it was just that right time.
yeah. And again, one of the things that was clear in Gary's journey is at that right time, like God would intervene and provide the support and care to mend your spirit so you can keep on that journey.
Yeah.
And in what you've expressed is very clear that he was doing the same with you. That when you was like, I can't hear this God, and giving you a reminder of why you're together, a
Right.
reminder of what that future does look like. And so I'm grateful to hear those little kisses along the journey that God has provided and continues to provide in your life. And so one of the things that I'm curious with, from a mental emotional health perspective, were there things where at some point, because of how you were engaging with Gary, where you start questioning your own emotional mental state?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because, I would get a little, I would be frustrated.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
would get frustrated. And um, I don't know if this has something to do with it, but I'm the oldest grandchild. I'm the oldest uh, uh, of my family, And so I always had this something in me that I had to be responsible. I'm
Hmm.
the responsible person,
Hmm.
And so I feel like a lot of times it can go overboard with me.
Hmm.
I can be responsible. But after a while, it wears down where I can't be responsible. And I realize that I'm not that super,
Yeah.
where I can, I need help.
Yeah.
And so I have to realize that I need help. And
Yeah.
so I have to realize that I need to talk to other people and ask for that help. And so there has been a few people that I could talk to that could, give me some encouragement
Mhm.
or say something that will uplift me and get me to laugh,
Mm.
you know, and that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was one of the questions I was gonna ask was, y hey, I can't fix everything.
That's right.
Right. I can't have any more weight on me.
Right.
Yeah. And as you were stating that, one of the things that came to my mind was it actually requires humility.
Yes.
Yeah, it
Yes.
requires humility, and then in that humble state, that's when God provides the strength that you need to get to that next part of the journey. So I do appreciate you being able to articulate that for us in terms of realizing, because we all know we have the superwoman syndrome at times. And then you're like, oh my word. And so in your journey with Gary and in your marriage, one of the things that I'm curious about is what, like, you spoke about not giving up and that being part of your nature, but what was it for yourself that was like, in all the things that we went through, this was worth it, in terms of maybe it could be now in terms of the ministry work that you were doing, but what was something that would anchor you back into that place of peace that God was providing?
Well, I know with me, the kids, just looking back at the kids, uh, wonderful kids, that makes me not want to give up, you
Mm,
know. Uh, it makes me think about their lives and their children. And the unit that we have is going to be uh, miraculous for our children.
mm,
They won't have to see uh, a breakup.
mm.
They'll know that they can go through the process of having a family and keeping the family together.
Yeah. Yeah. And within that part of hope that your children provided, was there anything else that you learned where you were like, okay, from a self-care perspective, like, were there, after a while, what were things that you put into place to make sure that you were being taken care of? And are you still able to do it now in the midst of working in ministry? Because usually that's a lot of pressure to be the
Yes,
pastor wife.
yes, it is. But I can think back, I just we had women's conferences that I went to, uh, just being out with family. Sometimes I'm out with the ladies,
Mhm.
things like that. That makes a difference.
Yeah.
Uh, and I know that that's part of my ministry,
Mm.
uh,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
help other women,
Mhm.
you know, um, because like Pastor Gary said earlier, uh, we don't want to do things that were done to us that gave us hurt
Mm.
and pain.
Mhm.
And I had a lot of hurt and pain because, and it's understandable, um, you know, as far as someone would tell you, just give up and,
Mhm.
just turn your back.
Yeah.
And I think about the love component when God tells us to love and tell us to give and and hear a person saying that is, don't do that. And, so that's a hurt and pain that I went through because I didn't know I needed somebody to help me make some decisions. And sometimes they're hard decisions, but I need somebody to tell me to make those decisions. But in a loving way and in a caring way, and to show me how to do that.
Right. And as you make that statement, this is kind of actually a dumb question because you already kind of said it, but I just want to hear you say it again, which is the things that you've learned from, hey, I'm not going to be this for another person. So what, if you can provide maybe a couple of tips here and there for a person who's in this journey and saying, hey, these are some things that can be helpful as you are being a support for someone else. Is there some things that you can break down for them in that part of their stage in life? Similar to the question I asked your husband a while ago.
Well, I would, the main thing the first thing I would do is be a support, be there, call, talk to them, see where they're at, give them an encouraging word, help them walk through the journey, which is important. Someone that can speak you through the journey. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to feel alone. No one's there to help you. You need someone to speak you through, to help you through. And that's an encouragement alone. Just having someone speak to you, someone to pray with you, someone to say something that will change your mindset.
Yeah. And thanks again for reiterating those elements, because one of the things that I think we talked about before, probably on the interview that you had with me, which was or maybe not, I could be making it up, but I digress. Is even though people can be challenging, and even though not all of them are equipped to meet our needs at that appropriate time,
right?
Still, God still calls us to be in community. He still calls us to be in relationships, and there's so much to gain when we continue to pursue healthy relationships, healthy friendships. Because one of the things that you stated a while ago, which was, I can't do all of this alone. And, I need help at some point. So I appreciate you being vulnerable enough to share those elements. And you've kind of both already done it, but let's do it again. Talk about, in the midst of all of things that you've been through, what were some of those elements in your marriage where you said, okay, my marriage has been enriched by these experiences? And I say that because sometimes we can, as we talked about the mindset, we can always focus on the negative, which keeps us in the poor position. So what are some of those positive things that kept your marriage strong and got you to 33 years?
Well, I can say the closeness, to be able to when someone is down, the other one is up. And when someone else is down, the other one is up. And that strength, helps because we're different, and we need to help each other out. And so I think that has really helped our marriage.
And what about you, Pastor Gary?
I said woof because I just did a whole new milestone of being able to sit here and not say anything. That was challenging. That was challenging. I'm so glad you called on me. No, I think the bottom line is love.
Mm.
When you spend so much time with a person that, you know, we can look at each other and communicate. And when, like Pastor Gina is saying, when one of us is going through, you know, we tend to lean on the other one, and the other person, one of us will step up. But there's also been times when we haven't been able to step up together, but we have to trust God together.
Yeah.
You know, because neither one of us knows everything. And
That's right.
And I can attest that when I was going through, she didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, but we still held hands and we kept hope and say, you know, somehow we're going to come out of this from the promises that was on our lives.
Yeah.
So I think it's a, like Pastor Gina said, it's a mindset. You make up your mind to stay. You know, if we're not abusing each other physically and mentally, emotionally, then you make up your mind to stay. And if those things is happening, you know, encourage the other one to get help. You know, if you got a toxic relationship, get some help, you know, and get that toxicity out of there. Because we was one that's always strive for love and the three things: the love, the peace of God, and the joy of the Lord.
And I feel like that's the drop the mic statement to our conversation for today. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to add to that, Pastor Gary. Thank you for all that you shared, and Gina as well. And before we close out today, how can people get in contact with you? How do they get to learn more about you? Please tell us.
The easiest way is our website. Is www.fireandlife.org. That's fireandlife.org. And we also have a podcast every Thursday at 11 o'clock Central Time. Fire and Life Talk can be found on the YouTube channel, all your social media channels, and I was going to say also E360 TV, but we leave in there. So, and when you come on, YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, to like, to comment, and what's the other? Share. There we go.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So fireandlifetalk.org.
Yeah, fireandlife.org.
Oh,
that's our website. Yeah, and the podcast name is Fire and Life Talk.
Fire and Life Talk. Okay.
Yeah, but if you go to the website, our phone number, email addresses to contact us, everything is there. You'll see a lot about the missions and outreach work that we do. And yeah, everything's there.
Yeah, because we didn't even touch the surface of your ministry work, but barely.
Yeah.
So I guess as I say that, it's an indication that I guess you guys are probably coming back to.
See, I was going to invite myself again, but
there you go.
I'll let you do it this time.
And so within that, you guys, you know how we do next week, we're going to have our tools and tips where it's going to be hard because they both share such great information, but just been able to put some of the things that they shared into little tidbits that you can take away and put into your everyday life. So come back next week to hear those tools and tips. In the meantime, have a great week. And thank you guys again for being on our show.
All right. Thank you, Kamira. We appreciate it.